My name's Dyalla Builds and Stuff. I want to show you why Prismatic's got an absolutely massive buff. The Nighthawk style 564, just look at that number, 564, watch what happens. Now I'm on a Prismatic subclass. We're going to get it all the way up to 892, stacking a couple of things. The two things that are really important to this are Facet of Courage and Facet of Dominance. I will break this down as we go, but we're going to be stacking these two, a darkness and a light buff at the same time, just to get an absolutely massive damage increase. So I'm going to break it all down now. Just for testing purposes, we're going to start off on the Solar subclass, not Prismatic. We're going to be running the Nighthawk, obviously, just a standard Solar subclass. And this is what you do, just with a standard Goldie at the moment. The number is going to be 564233. And what I'm going to do in the next clip is add Ember of Torches. Powered melee attacks make you radiant, which will be a 25% damage increase. So we're just going to nail this down. So 564. I'm going to throw my melee, get radiant. And again, 705. That's a 25% damage increase. And again, I just want to say I'm on a standard Solar subclass. So 25%, we all know that, pretty basic stuff. Prismatic Hunter is what I'm going to switch to in the next clip. Now, it's really important that we switch to the Prismatic Hunter because of a couple of fragments that are introduced with the Prismatic subclasses. The ones that in particular work really nicely is Facet of Courage. Your Arc, Solar and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted with darkness debuffs. So any darkness debuff, whether it's Sever, Slow, something like that, is going to apply a 10% damage increase. I'm using the Threaded Spike melee for this one, which severs targets. So that's what I'm just using for this clip. So again, Threaded Spike severs, that's a darkness debuff. And I'm also going to be using Facet of Dawn. Powered melee hits against targets makes you radiant. So we're going to be getting the best of both, applying the debuff and getting the melee radiant at the same time. So just before I show you that working, again I'm still on my Solar subclass. I just want to get this to show you. 705, that's the radiant. Now I'm going to switch to my Prismatic Hunter with the fragments that we've talked about, the Facet of Courage and the Facet of Dawn. Now you're going to see a damage increase. I'll apply that debuff from the Facet of Courage, and it's going to go all the way up to 775820. That's a 9.9. We may as well call it 10%. A 10% damage increase. That's an additional 10% damage increase than what you would do on the standard Solar subclass with the Radiant. So we're actually getting the Radiant and the 10% extra damage when you switch over to the Prismatic subclass. So 10% damage is pretty nice. Just basically very easy. Just applying a darkness debuff, whether it's Sever, slowing, something like that. That is the Facet of Courage, just to clarify that. That's going to make all of your Arc, Solar and Void abilities do increased damage. That's a 10% extra damage. Just before I show you how to increase it even more, just want to touch on the darkness debuffs. Withering Blade's not a bad option as well. This will slow them. That's also a debuff. Dustfield Grenade, something like that, is again another option. But there is actually weapons in the game that will apply darkness debuffs. Now, my favourite perk, probably in one of the game at the moment, is Slice. I banged on about this all last season. This will apply Sever when you cast your cast your class ability. That will apply Sever, which is a 40% damage reduction as well from the target, and it applies a darkness debuff. So again, you'll see here, I've applied that darkness debuff, and it's going to go up to 775. That's the exact same number as what I had when I used the Threaded Spike. You'll notice there I'm using the Solar melee. I'm not using the Threaded Spike, I'm using the Slice to apply the darkness debuff. So I just wanted to throw that little option in there. I'm sure there'll be other weapons in the game that work like that as well. Something like Cryosphasia, where you can slow as well. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Facet of Dominance. Your Void Grenades weaken targets. Now paired out with something like a Magnetic Grenade. We all know what this does. It's a 15% debuff. Facet of Dominance, like I said, pair it with something like a Magnetic Grenade. Something that's very easily applying. So basically what I want to do is see if the Facet of Dominance is actually working with the Facet of Courage. So this is what happens when you apply the darkness debuff and the light debuff at the same time. It's going to go up even further to an absolutely whopping 892,000. So just to clarify, what's working here is I've got the Facet of Courage on 10%. I've also got a Facet of Dawn, which applies Radiant, which is 25%. And then on top of that, I am also running the Facet of Dominance, which is basically Echo of Undermining. but a 15% as well. So 15% for that, 25% from the Radiant, and a 10% from the Facet of Courage, all stacking together to get an absolutely massive 892,000. 562 was the original shot, and by the time you've got everything going on, it's going all the way up to 892,000, which is a 58.6% damage increase, which is absolutely massive. Now the best thing about this little setup is you can do it on your own. You don't need to do anything really special. Just throw your grenade for the weakening and throw your melee. And on top of that as well, the Facet of Dominance, the one that applies the weakening, is universal. So if one of your teammates applies it or you do it on your own, it's going to be the exact same thing. All you have to do is make sure you hit your melee. Now Microcosm is something I want to take a look at as well, just to finish it off. Paracausal Beam, it fires a kinetic light, dealing massive bonus damage to shield. Doesn't sound that great, but it's this perk that really goes off with this type of build. The Paracausal Imbuement, final blows with this weapon grants super energy. This weapon gains bonus damage once your super expires. Gaining super energy on kills after using your Nighthawk, it's just a match made in heaven. The damage increase is 4786. I'm going to spam my super over there. I ain't got a bad aim, I just did that on purpose, I promise. And then 5742. That's a 20% damage increase, so if you can incorporate this into the build, it's going to be really nice. And in a minute I'm going to show you how much super energy you get just from a few kills and a few precision hits with this. As we know, Nighthawk will return super energy on kills. Add your Microcosm into the build to get an extra 20% damage increase whenever you spam your golden gun, or to build your super back up from kills. A decent little pairing in my opinion, the Microcosm, but just before you go, I just want to throw something else at you as well with the Microcosm. It was a build I was going to do totally separately, but with the exotic class items coming out, I don't think I'm going to have time to do a whole video on it. So I just want to show you an Orpheus Rigs option as well. This provides ability energy for each target tethered. You get loads of super energy with Orpheus Rigs. And again, that Microcosm works absolutely perfectly with this, because you'll get the 30% debuff damage, and you're going to get the extra 20% damage when your super ends. Plus you're going to get all that super energy back from the Microcosm as well. So it's a really nice little pairing on something like Orpheus Rigs as well. Really found this trace rifle absolutely fantastic, really, to be honest. I think it's really good. But yeah, like I said, that's the video. I just wanted to, like I said, I was going to do a whole separate video on this, but I just think with the class items coming out, I wouldn't have had time to do it. So I will leave a dim link in the video description for both of these builds that you've seen. I hope you found this video somewhat helpful. Have a great day, and just look how much damage this does against the boss in the final mission. Have a great day.